Hello, this is Pastor Lauren Richmond of East Denver Bible Baptist Church, welcoming you to our broadcast tonight of Lead Me to the Rock. We're talking about grace for the pace, replenishing grace, and I want to read you a couple of scriptures tonight. First of all, James chapter 5:10, verse number 10. Take my brethren the prophets, who have spoken in the name of the Lord, for an example of suffering affliction and of patience. And then in 2 Corinthians 4 and verse 16, for which cause we faint not, but though our outward man perish, yet the inward man is renewed day by day. As we think about living the Christian life, we often think of people who go through some trials and troubles. We know that people, oftentimes there are some that will preach a health and prosperity ministry, yet we know some great Christian leaders who've had to suffer much affliction physically as well as other ways, and yet God has been beside them all the way. And I'm thinking of a wonderful couple that we got to become very close friends with years ago, and that was, first of all, I knew of them at Baptist Bible College. It was Paul and Susie. Susie became his wife, Paul Bolt, and later on, as they had a ministry in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and I was in New York City, we became very close, and our families became great friends and had a wonderful time together, oftentimes going down there to visit with them and them coming to be with us. But Paul had suffered diabetes at an early age and was losing his sight, and then as a result of that ended up on CAPD dialysis, and eventually was sleeping 16 to 20 hours a day because of the everything failing on him, and eventually was in need of a kidney and a pancreas transplant, which he was able to go to Iowa and to get that, and spent, I believe, 16 more years of life after that before he eventually, his life was taken from him. But in all that time, I didn't hear him griping and complaining, nor did his wife, who had to pick up much slack because of that, but they just faithfully served the Lord and did a great job living for Jesus. Since Paul's passed away, Susie's remarried, but you know, it's a great thing to know how much they loved the Lord and how much they served Him, and they didn't complain about the struggles they were going through. And God's grace was enough for them to lead them along and guide them and help them even in the most difficult times. And no matter what kind of trials or troubles you may be facing, understand that God's grace is good enough for you. He doesn't promise you. Someone said he never promised me a rose garden. You've heard that about the song. But he doesn't promise all of that. Sometimes the thorns come along. But he does promise that his grace is enough. And his grace is sufficient. And it's made perfect in our weakness. So God will bless us. He will use us no matter what. Seems like things as we get older begin to break down. But you know what? The inward man can still be renewed as long as we're living. God's grace is enough. And if you've never come to the place where you've put your faith and trust in Him, then you don't know about that grace. It's amazing grace. How sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace to my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. You know that grace is still with me today, and that could be with you. Just put your faith and trust in Him, and He will help you, and He will get you through. God bless you, and have a wonderful night.